Hey everybody, my name is Dion. I have a small design firm in Portland, Oregon, and I specialize in brand development. I focus on making logos and packaging, brand collateral, and websites. And I've been working in the design profession since the mid-90s. I love to critique logos and branding. So if you want to learn more about me or my work, please click the link below in the comments and visit my website. Today I plan on discussing a logo that I find pretty interesting. So, love the company or hate the company, the logo we're talking about today is the Wells Fargo logo. It's interesting because they have two different versions of the logo. One I'm going to refer to as the historical logo, and the other is the more contemporary logo. The more contemporary one was designed in 2009, and the Stagecoach logo was designed in 1993. And let me get into the background of that a little bit. So in March 1852, Henry Wells and William Fargo created an express delivery company and also set themselves up as a financial institution. As far as express delivery goes, back in the 1850s, you basically had your steamship or your steam train. Not a lot of options, but that kept it pretty simple. So anyways, if train was your option, you could only go a certain distance before the tracks ended because the tracks didn't stretch from coast to coast at the time. So once you ran out of tracks, you'd basically have to take all your goods and drop them onto a wagon or a stagecoach, depending on how important they were, and then you haul them out to your final destination west of where the tracks ended. William and Henry were actually pretty astute guys, and they figured out that they didn't need to pay all these independent delivery companies to do that, and they basically set themselves up with an army of stagecoaches, which ended up being the largest fleet of stagecoaches in the world at the time. So, when you think about it, Wells Fargo is associated with two different things. One is banking and money and finances. The other is shipping and protecting those finances through what at the time was the best method they had, the stagecoach. And the stagecoach ended up being probably what we would relate to as the first armored car. You basically got a few guys in this vehicle, heavily armed, in order to protect their shipment of gold and silver to the next bank and, primarily keep themselves alive in between trips. So anyways, that is why we relate Wells Fargo to the stagecoach. Everybody kind of just saw what they were doing. They knew Wells Fargo. They tied it more toward the stagecoach, the vehicle that they saw on a day-to-day basis. And that's what stuck for a long time. So in 2009, bankers were still concerned with gold and making profits, and also corporate mergers. So a bank called Wachovia was, I don't know, they ran into some trouble, they need to merge, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but Wells Fargo steps in, they pony up about $15 billion and get a bunch of fancy lawyers together, and they do this merger acquisition between the two banks. Now, as designers, we all know that the most exciting thing about a merger is getting rid of the old logos and the old collateral and coming up with a new brand for the merged company. Basically, they were in need of some new material in 2009. That's where this red box logo comes from. You might look at this and really think, on first impression, that's just a red box with some yellow text in it. That's basically it. How is this noteworthy? But when we start to peel away the layers and look a little deeper into it, I think this actually got some pretty interesting stuff to talk about. Originally, when this logo was introduced, you basically had a bunch of banking institutions that were using logos and marketing that were all blue. I guess blue is kind of a calming color. It's hard to find a lot of fault with it. When Wells Fargo comes out with this red logo, people kind of freaked out. They thought it wasn't really professional. So we got this red box with this yellow text in it. And to me, when I look at this, I think, all right, the red box with yellow text, that's actually not yellow text. Let's think of it as gold text because we're looking at an abstraction here. And why would they go with this red color? It's a direct association back to the color of their stagecoaches at the time. In the 1850s, they were red. That was part of their branding. It's got like a historical precedent to it. So this is part of who they are. This is part of their lineage. The cube itself is pretty interesting. It's a stable shape. It's hard to argue that. But when it comes down to it, as far as symbols go, the cube or the square, it represents power, stability, strength, security. The square has volume, and as well as having volume, we also relate square to a box or a container. So Not only does it represent like a strong foundation, but it also represents this container you can put things into. So in the 2009 version of this logo, what we're left with is a really interesting remix of historical reference as far as color, typeface, and the history of Wells Fargo, and then that's brought into more of an abstract mark that is very simple yet contains quite a lot of information on it, especially based on the long history of the company itself. So to me, this logo literally says, hey, take your gold, put it in our strong box, or Wells Fargo is the strongest, safest place to put your gold. We'll protect it. So if they're really going to protect your money or not is hard to say, but what we do know is that the logo is working really hard because it gives the impression and provides an assurance that they've got a history in this, that they're competent at doing so, and that your funds will be safe. As far as the typeface goes, I really honestly think this is a textbook example of proper usage of typography in logo design. The typeface itself is Clarendon, and it's a really well-selected choice in my opinion for this updated logo. It's a historical font designed by Lord Mayor of London, Robert Beasley. He designed this in 1845. He wasn't the Lord Mayor at the time, but obviously he was a well-respected guy. He designed this font when he was working at a type foundry, and everybody really thought it was good. It actually kind of set the precedent for Egyptian slab serif fonts. So he had this protected by a design copyright at the time that unfortunately didn't last as long as he would have hoped. Once his copyright ran out, everybody just yoinked it, maybe did a couple little tweaks to it, started producing it as a woodblock typeface and made its way out to the American West. This typeface actually became really iconic as the wanted poster or reward poster typeface in the American West, and it's what people sort of instantly recognize and feel is an Old West sort of font. It was being used at the same time that Wells Fargo was established, and it was being used in the Old West and has that immediate recognizability to it. So someone did their research. They did a really good job of picking this font, and when we see it, it just automatically sort of references back to that time. This is a really interesting contemporary logo that ties the old and the new together. It ties the red color of the stagecoaches, the gold, the protection of finance, and they even have a little bit of fun by using the wanted poster typeface as their primary font choice. So both these logos work really well together. The red box is obviously an abstraction of where the stagecoach came from, but it still contains a lot of the important information, even kind of expands on it and gives it more of a modern twist. It's easy to comprehend what the company Wells Fargo does when you're looking at this logo. Interesting enough is that I actually can't find any information on who created the mark. If you happen to know that little bit of trivia, please leave it in the comments below. I'd be really interested. That's my critique on the Wells Fargo logo. They've got a long history, and so I did a pretty deep dive on this one. If you enjoyed this critique, check me out at my link below. And if you need any help with logo design or your branding, get in touch. Shoot me an email, and let's see what we can do.